Have you ever had one of those moments where the world glitches? Not in a dramatic neon hologram kind of way, more like a flicker, a pause you can't explain, a sensation that something was meant to happen but then didn't. I've always wondered if that's the universe showing its seams, or if it's just our minds brushing up against the edge of whatever this life existence really is. Some people call it déjà vu. Some call it coincidence. Some call it religion in so many various forms throughout time. But some claim it's proof we are living inside a simulation, a world with rules, systems, and scripts written by something far more ancient and intelligent than we are. But the funny thing is, when you entertain that idea long enough, the question stops being, are we in a simulation, and becomes, does it even matter? Because whether this is a cosmic construct, a coded reality, or simply the byproduct of biology and chaos, our emotions are still real. Our pain is still real. Our love is still real. If this is a simulation, they programmed us with the capacity to break our own hearts and the courage to keep trying anyway, which feels like the most human flaw imaginable. Sometimes I like to imagine that somewhere, behind the curtain of this reality, there's a console, a terminal quietly humming, and every choice we make writes a new line of code into it, even the small, unremarkable ones. A cup placed on a counter, a sentence we almost spoke but didn't, a name we remember long after we've forgotten the sound of the voice that carried it. Little decisions reverberating through whatever this place is. And maybe that's the point, not to figure out whether the world is real, but to understand the places where we are, where our hearts glitch, where our memories loop, where something inside us refuses to follow the script we were given. If this is a simulation, then it's one that keeps trying to tell us something. And I've spent my whole life leaning in, trying to hear the message hidden between the frames. Because what if the world isn't malfunctioning at all? What if we are the anomaly? What if we are the malfunctioning piece of the simulation? This is Z and Cruz, and this week's episode is called The Glitch in the Simulation. The more I think about this idea, the more I realize that the question isn't about computer code or cosmic architects. It's about perception. If our reality is a simulation, then everything we call real is simply whatever our senses agree on. A consensus. A shared hallucination we've all decided to believe in long enough for it to matter. But what fascinates me is that even inside that shared construct, each of us still lives in a completely different version of the world. Two people standing in the same room aren't actually experiencing the same moment. One sees opportunity, another sees loss. One hears hope in a sentence, another hears a warning. If this reality truly is a simulation, then each of us is running our own personal branch of it, our own rendering of the same landscape, coloured by memory and fear and desire. And that makes you wonder, what is real exactly? Is it the raw data of the world? Or is it the meaning we extract from it? Because if someone breaks your heart, you don't feel algorithms firing, you feel grief. If someone touches your cheek, you don't think sensory input received, you think, I am loved. Whatever this place is made of, our experience of it is undeniably real. And maybe that's the part we overlook when we talk about living in a simulation. We jump straight to the metaphysics and forget the psychology. The truth is, our reality has always been a simulation, just not in the digital sense. It's a simulation generated by consciousness, by memory, by the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what our lives mean, by what we serve, whether that's the selfishness of ourselves or trying desperately to help others around us, even in the most thankless ways. If this world glitches, it's because we glitch. If moments repeat, it's because we're still trying to understand them. If life feels scripted sometimes, maybe it's because we haven't rewritten that part of ourselves yet. So the question isn't whether we live in a simulated reality. It's whether we're aware of the one happening inside us at all times. And that realization is terrifying, but also liberating. Because if we are part of some sort of ongoing simulation, internal or external, then maybe the limits we believe in aren't as fixed as we think. There's a moment when you really sit with the idea that this might all be a program running in the background, where everything goes quiet. Not in a dramatic, cinematic way, more like when you walk into a room and forget why you're there. A stillness, a pause. Because if this reality isn't the real one, then what are we? Not puppets, not code, not characters in someone else's script. We are the observers, the ones aware of the walls, the ones who can feel the edges of the frame pressing in on us just enough to ask, why does this feel familiar? Why does this moment feel like it's looping? Why do I sense there's something I'm supposed to understand? Maybe the true anomaly isn't the glitch, but the awareness of it. The awareness of ourselves, our true selves. Because awareness means there's something in us that isn't confined by the rules of this place. Something that can see beyond the pattern. Something that can ask questions the system was never designed to answer. And here's the part I keep coming back to. If we are living in a simulation, then awareness is the closest thing we'll ever have to freedom. Not breaking out of the world, but breaking out of our assumptions about the world. By breaking through the cloudiness of stereotypes, by not hating things just because we are told to, by loving people for who they are in their own awareness. Really, just learning to question the narrative we've inherited. Choosing, truly choosing, how we move through this place. Maybe the purpose of a simulated world isn't to trap us. Maybe it's to see what we do once we realize the doors were never locked. Because every time you pause, every time you question why something feels off, every time your life tilts just slightly sideways and you're forced to look at it from a new angle, that's you stepping outside the frame. And in that moment, you're not just living inside the program, you're shaping it, rewriting it, becoming the one thing a controlled system can never predict. Someone who sees it for what it is and decides to live anyway. Maybe the point was never to escape the simulation, or to even wake up from it, but rather to simply wake up to it. Of course, I couldn't do this podcast episode without mentioning The Matrix. That film reshaped the entire conversation about simulated reality. Not with equations or theories, but with a question that felt uncomfortably intimate. What if you've spent your whole life asleep? When I first saw it in 1999, I remember thinking, it wasn't the action or the aesthetics that unsettled me. It was the silence between those ideas. The quiet implication that the world might not be what it seems, and that maybe, deep down, we've always known that. Or really, that I have always known that. Because the Matrix didn't give us new fears. It gave shape to the ones we already carried. The fear of being controlled. The fear of not seeing the truth. The fear that our choices were never really ours. But it also gave us something else. A reminder that awakening doesn't require breaking the laws of physics. Sometimes awakening is simply choosing to look at your life without the story you've been told about it. In a way, every one of us has swallowed a metaphorical red pill at some point. A moment when something cracked open inside us and the world suddenly looked different than it did the day before. And whether we call that enlightenment or grief or growth or simply getting older, it changes us, irreversibly. If we are living in a simulation, then maybe the most human thing we can do is exactly what Neo did. Notice the glitch, ask the question, follow the thread, and choose with full awareness who we want to be inside the system. Because reality, simulated or not, still asks the same thing of us: to wake up a little more each day, to see the world clearly, and to move through it with intention. But here's what lingers after all the theories and possibilities. If life really is a simulation, then someone built it with the expectation that most people would never question it, that we'd accept the world as it's presented, that we'd stay comfortably asleep. And yet, every one of us eventually has a moment, quiet, subtle, ordinary, when something inside us stirs, when the seams of the world show just for a heartbeat, when the déjà vu is too sharp, too precise, too familiar to ignore. It's the same moment the Matrix tried to tell us about. The instant you realize the world isn't asking you to believe in it, it's asking you to wake up to yourself. Because if this place is just simulated, then the rarest thing in it is a human being who becomes aware. A mind that recognizes the walls. A heart that senses the pattern beneath the pattern. A soul that starts asking questions the system never intended you to be able to ask. And that awareness isn't a glitch. It's proof that you are the part of the code that refuses to be controlled. Every choice you make, every truth you face, every moment you step into who you really are, it breaks the script a little more. Which means the real question isn't, is this world real? It's, now that I see it, what do I do next? What do I do to make this reality, this simulation, this existence, better for everyone that's part of it? Because maybe the purpose of a simulated world isn't to limit you. Maybe it's to see what you become once you realize you were never meant to stay asleep inside a broken system. In the end, every simulation waits for someone brave enough to open their eyes, listen to the voices around us, and decide with full awareness, we are who we choose to be. Now choose. Please check your favourite bookstores worldwide for my novel, The Zephyrus Chronicles Rebirth. The highly anticipated sequel, Cantera, arrives this February. This is Cruz reminding you to stay close to the echo. Bye for now.